Okay, I'm going to talk about manifestation. So, you know, you'll hear spiritual gurus, they'll tell you that if you think about something, if you try to think about something and manifest it into your life, it will manifest into your life, okay? So, if you think about making a bunch of money, you'll make a bunch of money. That's what people will tell you. Now, this isn't necessarily strictly true. Okay, so if you sit in your room and all you do is sit there and wish for money in your bank account, it's not just going to show up there. But it is true from a certain perspective. Okay, and this is what I want to talk about. So we can manifest things into our lives, but it doesn't work by just thinking about it. The thing is when we think about something, when we desire something and we think about it, what ends up happening is, we're conscious human beings, and hopefully we're logical. So if we think about wanting something, eventually we're going to come up with a strategy to get it. Okay, so that strategy, it turns into action. That action turns into the manifestation of the thing we desire. So this is what manifestation really is. Manifestation is basically ruminating, okay, thinking about something that you want, and then eventually you come up with a strategy to get it. And if you keep thinking about it, you're probably going to enact that strategy. So if you want a good job, and to get that good job, you need an education, and to get that education, you need money, and again, you say you're broke, then you're going to have to live a little minimalistically to save up to get that education, to get that good job. So again, you start living minimalistically, you think about living minimalistically, you start living minimalistically, you save the money, put that money towards the education, before you know it, you have the good job. So again, this is how manifestation works. But even beyond that, we can think about manifestation a little differently. So if you look around the room you're in, or if you look at the phone or the computer you're watching this on, some human built that phone or that computer, that screen, or they built the chair you're sitting in. All of those things, all of those man-made things, they began with a thought. So somebody said to themselves, I want something to sit on, I desire something to sit on, and they manifested it, okay? They came up with a strategy to build the chair, and before long, they're building the chair, and before long, they have a chair. And fast forward a little bit, we have entire markets that specialize in building chairs. So this is true with, again, any man-made object. Everything you can see that is man-made around you, it began with a thought, okay? Somebody thought about building something, and they built it. So throw a little wrench in this theory, though. What happens when two opposing people or two opposing groups are trying to conflict, or rather, are trying to manifest things that conflict with each other? So a typical example here is, say two people are trying to get the same job. They both want to manifest this occupation into their reality. Well, somebody's going to win and someone's going to lose, right? So in this case, there's a competition, there's a confliction, and basically whoever thinks about it the hardest, whoever comes up with and translates those thoughts into the best strategy and the best actions to get that job, they're going to get the job, and the other person's going to lose, right? So let's step up the competition a little bit. Let's think about a war, okay? Let's think about the Ukraine war, for example. So Russia, they thought about conquering part of Ukraine or something, right? They want to take part of Ukraine. Those thoughts translated into a war strategy. The war strategy translated into the actions to take over part of Ukraine, right? And Ukraine wanted to manifest what do they want to manifest? They want to manifest sovereignty, basically, right? They want to just defend themselves. So in this case, you have a thought war occurring, okay? There's a thought war before any real war. There's a thought war, and the thought war guides the war all the way from the beginning to the end. So if there are more people thinking, rather, if there's a better, say that Russia is thinking about this war, thinking about what they want to manifest on a higher level than Ukraine is, then Russia's going to win, okay? And say that Ukraine is thinking about sovereignty, and they're translating those thoughts into better strategies for defense, Ukraine's going to win, right? This is how reality works, okay? It's all a thought war, and particularly with wars, whoever comes up with the best strategy and implements that strategy into the physical world, they're going to win. So because Ukraine is not really independent in this war, because they're depending on funding from the West, namely the United States, what does that mean for this thought war? Well, what it means is that in order for Ukraine to win, it means that the US basically has to be convinced, they have to think about funding the war. They have to desire to fund this war. So you have to convince the US population to fund the war. You have to convince the US to support the Ukraine war in order for Ukraine to win. Otherwise, the funding stops, and Ukraine, again, they're not independent. If they don't have their own military, they don't have their own weapons, they can't fight the war. They're going to lose. So this is the purpose of media. This is the purpose of the mainstream media in this case. Basically, the mainstream media will try to create support for the Ukraine war and translate that support into a win. Now, here's the thing about war, though, in the 21st century. Okay, there's another wrench in this theory that I'm talking about. So we have nukes. Okay, and what that means is that basically it guarantees mutually assured destruction. And in reality, all war is mutually destructive to an extent. Okay, both Ukraine and Russia have lost people. They've lost lives, and the reason they've lost lives is because they are, again, they're thinking about conquering. Russia's thinking about conquering Ukraine, and Ukraine is thinking about defending themselves. Now, let's instead assume that instead of thinking about defense and offense, let's think about peace deals. Let's think about peaceful strategies with which to stop the mutually assured destruction. What happens? Well, when you think peacefully, when you think about peaceful strategies, when you desire peace, you manifest those thoughts into reality. And if the collective desires peace, then you get peace. That is how reality works, okay? So one person can't think about a peace strategy and manifest into reality, but a collective can, okay? Then that's how this works with any war, okay? The collective thoughts manifest reality. So if the US, instead of trying to convince the US that we needed to fund the war in Ukraine, what if we tried to convince the US citizens to look for a peace deal? We would come up with a peaceful strategy. That peaceful strategy would lead to peaceful action, and we would come up with a peace deal that manifested into reality. This is the point I'm trying to make here at the end of the day, is that if we continue to try to fight wars, if we continue to lose lives at the expense of, young people mainly, and to the benefit of the military-industrial complex, whether it's the military-industrial complex in Russia or the United States, what's going to happen? Well, we're going to kill young people and basically benefit older people. So my recommendation to you is to think peaceful thoughts, okay? Desire peace, and you will come up with strategies to make that peace happen, and we will manifest peace. Otherwise, we're going to continue to find ourselves in these proxy wars, and then those proxy wars, what do? They build into wars, real wars, right? World wars, and the world wars build into nuclear wars. Again, there's two paths we can go. We can go to mutually assured destruction or mutually assured benefit. Okay? Again, our collective thoughts manifest reality. So if we collectively manifest violence, we're going to get violence. If we collectively manifest peace, we're going to get peace. So just give that a little thought, okay? We need to understand how our thoughts translate into reality. rather than thinking that our actions are some independent phenomenon that don't depend on our thoughts, because that's not how reality works. And the thing is you could apply this to anything in life, but the biggest the biggest the kind of the pedestal I want to place here is the violence. Okay, if we stop the violence, then we can have competition. We can have competition between two people in one job. We can have competition between markets, competition in sports. The problem is when that competition leads to violence. When it leads to violence, we begin these vicious cycles of mutually assured destruction. Why as a species do we want to assure destruction on both sides of a conflict? What benefit does it provide anybody? It doesn't provide anyone any benefit in the long run. The warmongering military industrial complex, they're dooming their grandchildren to a world war, and I don't even know if they realize it. Maybe they're just so incapable of thinking critically that they don't even know it, or maybe they think that they can make enough money to build a bunker and provide a life for their grandchildren to live underground. Do you want to live underground in a bunker? I don't. It doesn't seem to make sense to me why we choose violence over peace. And the truth is by and large we don't. By and large, humanity is collectively peaceful, and yet we've allowed psychopaths to manipulate us and control the resources we create to fund wars. Why do we allow our rulers to do this? It makes no sense to me. And the truth is, I think we can do better. I think we can learn to work together with our fellow peaceful citizens across borders. And we can get these psychopaths out of these positions of control that constantly lead us into war. So, again, competition's good. It's not good when competition gets violent, though. And we even have violent competitive sports, right? We have MMA and boxing. That's about as violent as I think we should have. That's about the pinnacle of violence that we should have in society, if you ask me. And yet, we have entire militaries, entire markets based around killing people. So, again, if you think about anything in the long term, you will realize that violence it leads to mutually assured destruction. Why are we doing this? Ask yourself that question and fight that behavior by thinking peacefully. Think about peaceful thoughts, and peace will manifest. Thanks for watching.